First off, I want to apologize for yet again not having a vlog last week. Last week was a pretty important one to actually weigh in on stuff. And, well, I did record it, the file got corrupted. I told everybody on Twitter this last week, but I know not everybody that follows the show actually follows me on Twitter, so there you go. If you watch these vlogs, that's why I didn't have one last week. That, and I didn't have the time to re-record it because I was busy with Zyuranger, which I'll be releasing videos on it in late July and through August. That is all watched, that is all written. I'm planning to edit it next week after I do some other preparatory stuff. I want to get through Mighty Morphin. I have the first third of the script done for that as well. I've actually had a pretty productive week, all things considered. So, ZAWORLD. This is the second episode that has the premiere of ZAWORLD. I'm not even a JoJo's fan, and I know the Dio reference. Thank you, friends of mine that are fans of JoJo, for giving me that. Yeah, I like the guy. I love the multi-forming mask. I'm not a big fan of how they integrated the three beasts emblems on the shirt. I mean, I think it would have been better had they been stacked like Tatoba style, like O's had, since that is kind of the 3-unit combination thing that they got going there. But it's not bad for what it is. It's got a decent black body and the other color accents that make it pretty much sell it for me. Plus, his main beast is the Rhino. And yeah, I know that it's all a allusion and reference to Gao Silver and his story arc. I think, however, that they're making it a lot shorter as this episode ended, they revealed his human form and how Genesis is brainwashing for him and fusing him with the 3 humans is not permitting that much consecutive control. So it's like they're quickly moving through the arc, but it doesn't feel like it's that rushed. The only thing that feels rushed, however, is that they're all suddenly terrified of ZAWORLD and him just conquering them in such an easy manner from the previous episode, especially since right after that fight gets done with, he called out his own mechs, which Genesis somehow also captured and brainwashed him. No, this is where you admittedly lose points, ZAWORLD. We could buy him finding the Zoomans out of the blue because he was searching the planet for them. But, so, you know, others in sequestered hiding, I could buy that. Possibly assisted by the Birdman, since we don't know what his deal is, and that if he really hates his homeland, then, you know, that would kind of make sense for him to be that self-destructive, since we don't know what the big deal is. But the mechs is where it gets more problematic. I think it would have been better to hold off on those until after he'd been saved from himself, and then, you know, just the same way that the ZAWORLD had been recognized and granted by the cube animals to have it done the same. Admittedly, since a bunch of the cube animals are lost on Earth as we've been experiencing, it could be that he found them as well the same way. It's just that it's something that's not made that clear, and I feel that's the bit problematic part of it. But yeah, them being utterly terrified of them and of ZAWORLD and trying to get past that forms the core of the episode, and they only really work through it when they stop pretending that they're not afraid. But as one of the things I've stressed in a few of my videos is how I hate annoying, idiotic assholes. And part of the trend with those is that they're reckless jackasses who don't care about what's going on to others. They're only really themselves or their own self-validation. But the thing between recklessness and courage is that recklessness is doing things without caring. So you're trying to build courage. If you're trying to example from Zoo Ranger, there one of the episodes there had Dan, the annoying one of the Zoo Ranger, try and teach a girl to be courageous and stand up for herself and all that. And, at the end of the lesson, she just charges at a monster blindly and punches it. And pretty much that is the definition of recklessness. So, yeah, no, there at least. ZAWORLD here is them coming to recognize that they're afraid, and by recognizing that fear, they can squash the impulse of it. And this is very important for the Zoomen, since as they are half beast, I don't know the exact amount that they are beast or man, but they're more in touch with their instincts, and to an extent Yamato is as well due to the Juman infusions he's experienced, so that while his instincts are, and especially the fight or flight reflex is more attuned with him. So as much as it's you're saying, as much as you're trying to say you need to get over fear to actually have courage, it's more of an element of these are people that are more in tune with those emotional states, so it's harder for them to overcome it. And I like that Yamato, as the one that's naturally least affected by this kind of thing, would be the one to help them realize that they need to accept it, and they get over it by pretty much laughing it off. And honestly, what feels like a real good character scene for a lot of them, as it's showing how they as a team are supporting one another, even if it's Yamato that's inspiring that change, as it's not him alone, it's all of them together again. Hell, this is another showcasing of the clever scripting and direction, as one scene earlier, you have this thing off on the side you might not have noticed, but when they're in this scene, they call directly back to it and point out this detail. So if you caught it in the first time, it seems like, wow, that was odd, and then they get to the later scenes that, oh, that's why they did that there. It's not just an Easter egg, but it's part of the plot. And this is why ZAWORLD keeps building a lot of good, what's the phrase? Not character, not publicity. The popular opinion for it is pretty consistently good from what I've seen. There are issues, but it doesn't feel like it's had an outright bad episode yet, which is still a breath of fresh air from the last few years, where there is you've seen these videos if you're watching them, pretty significant complaints. I'm going to leave it at that. So them trying to overcome it kind of gets them admittedly a bit more reckless, but not in a stupid way, in that they use the appearance of recklessness to trick Trumpas, the monster from last week, who is based off playing cards, to pretty much draw him out, as he had been using ZAWORLD to try and demoralize a lot of them so it could escape or defeat them. It essentially continue its game, while the others were paralyzed and panicking with even the thought of ZAWORLD's appearance. But when they get over that, the plan is just to play into Trump-ass's tactics to split up, to actually get him to call out ZAWORLD and then split them up. So the Juman ZAWORLD can focus on getting rid of Trump-ass, while Yamato does his best not to beat ZAWORLD, but just hold him off. And he does so pretty amazingly, as, I'm reminded of an episode of Star Trek The Next Generation, where, it's a Season 2 episode, so it's still in the bad period of TNG, where, Data is forced by replacement Doctor Woman into a game with someone else, and in the rematch of that, he doesn't target to win. He just needs to match them out, hold them out long enough to and that's pretty much what Yamato is doing, just using his strength as Zero Gorilla to keep the world occupied, even though it's pretty obvious he's getting his ass handed to him throughout all of that, and it's pretty good in showcasing Yamato's learned tenacity with his abilities. And because he's done that, Zuo the World then violently detransforms and showcases the whole he's under mind control or whatever Genis did to him. It's having deleterious effects on him, and makes me really interested in where they're moving this toward, heading next with this. If they're going to just end it after 3 episodes, make it a 4-episode arc, or are they going to pull it out for a full 5-episode thing like they did with Barai and Roki, aka Shirogane, and well, yeah, Zyuohger has no sign of losing my attention as of this moment. Ghost, on the other hand, is continuing to have severe problems. Now, I've been talking with people on social media about this, and we've pinned down pretty much the exact same problems with it, as pretty much since Grateful. Its resources are pretty much depleted because of Amazon's. Its directorial staff is much weaker because of Amazon's. Writing staff, we already know, was mainly just secondary writers and a guy who has never done a serialized story arc because he's only ever worked on Ultraman. And if you've been watching my Ultraman reviews, you know that they pretty, more often than not, they avoid serialization or any story arc in a given series. They just do a bunch of one-shot adventures that are analogous to anthology stories. I know a lot of the newer ones have done things differently than that. That has been my experience with the ones I've looked into and researched when I was setting up the whole Tiga review. So I don't. I'm hoping that will satiate the Ultra fans of my audience, but it's true. This guy has only ever done filler and not story arc stuff, so it explains now why Ghost is so bad with that, and its pacing, and why it's tacked on at the end, and why it really seems like the two more senior writers, Keiichi Hasegawa, who was known for Kamen Rider Double and Fours and a bit of Drive, he's essentially seconded for Riku Sanjo, and Nobuhiro Mori, who did the excellent Kamen Rider Yongo net movies, had been struggling. They were also mostly secondary writers, but if they were allowed to main under some type of senior mentor who has more experience than them, I think we would have gotten a better series than we have. But no, it's a trio of secondary writers, and they gave the main writing credit to the least experienced one. There is the problem at the roots of why Ghost has gotten so bad. And it's really just a culmination over time with the writing in all of this, in that they have the main plot, they have the story arc they're trying to progress, and they clash horribly together. Like, you know, it wouldn't be so bad if they actually bothered to give fucking episodes to the story arc. But no, the few ones they actually have tried to do with that, they've wasted them on fight scenes. So there's little progression. We know little about the Gunmisers. We know few of the rules, and because we know few of the rules, we don't know what's supposed to be actually capable of happening. This current story arc is paralleling the Grimm brothers that formed the Grimm Icon, and it's with a pair of professors from Kari's University, one of which who has been trapped in a dream state by Igor in his next part of the Deep Connect plan, because of course we're still on the Deep Connect plan, despite that being going for like 20 episodes now, because they never decided to settle that story thread even though we are far past the point where that story arc should have ended. Seriously, why is it still going? I like Thane Camus, but he should have been over. The stuff involving him should have been over and done with by now. Ugh. And it's like he's Secondary General Mook, but he not Thane Camus, Igor, but he's like, it seems like he's so uptight and superior and arrogant, and dude, you stopped being relevant the second Grateful Damacy premiered. You're pretty much done in the show. Why are you not done in the show? Anyways, yeah, Dream States. Takeru and everyone else try and save one of the professors who has been stuck in this dream state. The dream state is pretty much your perfect paradise. The scene where we saw other individuals' paradises of the main cast was really fucking stupid because they were based off of superfluous character elements instead of something more tangible. The only one that could have led into something was Akari's, where she had her own lab full of all the resources she could ever want to science. Except she already has that. At the temple. She's their head scientist for the ghost research stuff, so it really isn't connecting right. But I bring that one up specifically, mainly because I don't want to go into Makoto's sister complex. Yes, I am serious. What the hell, Japan? Is because it actually ends up playing a role into showcasing an element of her character that has otherwise been abandoned for a long time, in how she got into the whole science thing as a little girl, and why these two professors have had a influence on her life by showing her how fun science can be. And hey, as someone who went to college for science, it can be fun underneath all the fucking math. But yeah, I actually was more of a fan of the practical stuff. It was always the write-ups so I would have more difficulty with this. I never could wrap my head around calculus. It's like, it's easier to teach a caveman how to tame a horse or something. I had a tangent here. But pretty much the thing about this paradise and why this other professor doesn't want to leave it is because he stopped finding science was fun. And his brother was more like the hard ass where, your job doesn't... science... to paraphrase what was said in the show, science isn't fun! And, he's not wrong on that. It's like, science is facts and research and development, and you should be able to enjoy your job, is pretty much the crisis between the two, and that, when you take something too seriously, it takes all the fun out of it, and that was what the professor that was trapped in there was experiencing. He didn't want to leave because it was like the first time he'd had fun with his, doing something in a while with all of that. And pretty much Akari's role in this is just helping them to reconnect with what they enjoyed about, what made them passionate about science in the first place. Except, what made them passionate about science in the first place was the last time they had, or I should phrase it as, the last time they had fun with science was when they did a, science fair thing for a bunch of kids, which is what inspired Akari to become a scientist. So you're not really connecting with your intended message here at all if you're saying that kind of science is fun, because it's really like the most basic of basic elements to like junior chemistry kits. And hell, what they even showcase in the episode, not really so much science as their fields are described. It's like the basic of basic of basic. I had a tangent with this. So it kind of feels like Takeru is completely superfluous to these events, despite him learning the joy of fun, I think. They seem to keep swapping tangents with Takeru. I mean, first it was gathering the icons, then it was harmonizing with the souls of the icons, then it was trying to unite them all together by gaining their respect, and now it's harmonizing with emotions. And it pretty much seems to be they keep doing this solely to feed into some element of the merchandising, and this is the wrong way to go about it. It is because these are human feelings. He knows how to feel human feelings, or at least he should, because he was human. So there's no need to overstress on these elements, or even have the glowing from the soul thing he does now whenever he feels a strong emotion abnormally. Because you know what? Those are already things he would have experienced to death by this point, so yeah, there's the pun there. He's a dead man. It's like, maybe it would work if it was more wistful of things he didn't feel as strongly as a ghost, but we have seen zero evidence of that being an element. And it's especially annoying tangent as what should have been the last focus before, these tangents fall away to focus on the main plot of the fucking Ganma invading, is harmonizing with the icon souls, and they're pretty much almost done with that. And so what, they need this new thing for Takeru to focus on when you're at most 15 episodes away from this series' conclusion? You haven't really paid much attention to the actual villains for a while, and hell, they keep sending things at you. They either curb stomp you or you curb stomp them, so there's no real feeling of threat from the Ganma, and there hasn't been for a long time now, because you can just pretty much walk through all of their forces. He did so again in this episode twice. Because they send the Ganmeiser water after him to analyze data about him, but in the first fight of the episode, which should have been at the end of the last episode, seriously, why do you keep doing that? Ganmeiser water is completely unable to do anything to Takeru, so as the episode ends, it calls in a Ganmeiser fire, which is, instead of one mapped onto an actual Ganmeiser, it's mapped onto a throwaway Ganma, which is a new thing we did not know they could do. Actually, I take that back. They did it with a Ganma Ultima when the Ganmeiser first became active right after Grateful debuted. We didn't know what that was then, but I thought it would have resulted in it manifesting in that odd Ganma Ultima fire combination thing instead of a full Ganmeiser fire, since it's not at the root of it a Ganmeiser anymore. But yeah, Takeru walks through the Ganmeiser fire, that's not a Ganmeiser, and Ganmeiser water, and defeats them, all while the other 12 Ganmeiser platform things are just watching them. And I shouldn't say so much as watching, but they supported them at the beginning of the battle, but all of them together were not able to put a dent in Mugen. This is the end of the series. This is it. This is your end game. The things that are preventing you from restoring your life, getting back your actual physical body, and communing with this great eye thing that is supposedly part of this whole plot. Done. Go to the Ganma realm, destroy the Ganmeisers, get your life back, show over. You're pretty much just, you have no legitimate diversions at this point. I mean, yeah, the Ganmeiser are said to grow stronger over time by adapting and learning about them, so yeah, that's pretty much your end game if you do this now. And not doing it now is just a foolish tangent away from the actual end game of the show, meaning you should be wrapping up your plots. We're within 15 episodes at the end. Probably closer to 13 since the last few shows have gone down to 48 episodes. You have 12 of them to defeat in that time. Even if you do it one per episode, you can do that pretty easily. The problem, of course, being that of the resource shortage Ghost has been experiencing since Amazon's premiered. Will there even be more Gunmiser forms, or will they just keep recycling fire and water now for the chosen forms of this? Because we've seen pretty much no preview information on any other Gunmisers aside from water, to my knowledge. Hell, even the Ghost movie is just recycling and recoloring a bunch of Kamen Rider Ghost outfits. Dark Ghost, Alternate Spectre, and different color-coded Necrons. That's pretty much it for its villains, aside from Ghost's obligatory new Ghost icon, which is, I think from the preview details I saw, it was Darwin. It would make most sense to be Darwin. So yeah, they're not spending much on that movie either, because they don't have the resources for it. Or I shouldn't say they don't have the resources, is that they're not going to get the resources from their other divisions. Ugh. So yeah, Ghost is driving me nuts, but I know it's not its fault. I'm trying not to blame it, but it doesn't help how bad the stories are getting from this inexperienced writer. Can we have Riku Sanjo back next year? I know he wants to go back to his Beat the Vandalbuster manga, but it's like, he's been the most consistent writer of the Neo Heisei era. He really has. I know people have issue with 4s, but it's not that bad. It really isn't, in comparison to other stuff. Makai Retsuden is pretty short. It's focused around the backstory of D. Ringo from Yamiro Terasumono at Goldstorm, alongside a younger Ryume who appeared in Goldstorm as well, and how they first really got started in their respective pursuits. I shouldn't say really get started, as Ryume by this point had already been developed as a very powerful Makai priest that became one of the Senate's watchdogs. So this is pretty much her transition from a priest to a watchdog after training her protection abilities, as she mostly learned how to destroy things. Okay. D. Ringo, however, because he was known as more of this curio shopkeeper with a bunch of Makai artifacts, and the reason we see that why he had so many Makai artifacts and knowledge on this is he used to be a thief and treasure hunter for specifically Makai artifacts, and pretty much him and his friend Ginji, who appeared in Goldstorm in one episode, it was an old friend kind of thing. We kind of write that kind of thing off. But pretty much given the backstory of how they met, how they really got started in collecting this stuff, and how he would gain the knowledge that made him a useful resource. And it starts out by D. Ringo and Ginji accidentally unsealing a sealed horror, so Ryume has to save them, and that's pretty much what happens through it. And since they assist Ryume in resealing, defeating this evil, she lets them... I shouldn't say lets them off with a warning, but the other Makai forces that are there with them, she tells them not to actually kill them. Punish them, but go light, since they helped out, and, recognize their own failings. Except then they run, so... I don't know how that happened. To be honest, D. Ringo has always been considerably one of the weaker supporting characters. he's no Gonza. He really is not. And I honestly like some of the Ryume stuff more. I feel that would have been a bit better to see her actually in action, but considering it's a young actress that's not so much part of the role, but involved in the role, I can see them not being able to do as much stunt and high action stuff. Admittedly, they did a bunch of it in Goldstorm, but I can see them having limits to what they can pull off in those instances. So it feels like the most meh episode of Makai Retsuden, which is sadly coming to a close pretty soon. They're going to be throwing a lot of resources into a few coming movies and the Zero series, which they've had to delay to 2017 with their shooting schedule. Zero Dragon's Blood. I'm very much looking forward to that. But yeah, they're not going to be doing much more Garo stuff for the year. I, of course, am. I've got to do Makai Senki this October, but they're planning to rerun the original show in HD, high definition. I don't know what they broadcast in widescreen before, so It makes sense for them to be that kind of celebration, since the original show hasn't been rerun that much for Japanese standards, and the updates will probably be appreciated by fans. I really liked the original series, so that's probably a plus for... That's, in my opinion, a plus for the people who aren't so familiar with it, since it wasn't given that much attention originally either. But yeah, I'm not going to be messing with Makai Retsuden much longer, and Ghost is... It's not the worst thing I've ever seen. It's just frustrating at this point. Yeah, hopefully we'll have something new to say about ZAWORLD next week. See ya.